Hello. Okay, so we're going to be doing a quick video on just how to open oysters at home with a normal butter knife. I normally use my oyster shucking knife. For those who watch Pearls of Breckenridge, that's the knife you'll normally see me use. However, because it's coming up to certain holidays and we do have our option to have an oyster to open at home, I thought I'd do an oyster opening video just so you guys can see how to open the oyster safely at home, and also how you can then preserve the shell as well in case you'd like to keep the shell. So all you'll need is obviously the oyster and a butter knife. So this is a non-sharp, just normal butter knife. Now I'm going to be opening our new seasonal Halloween oysters. That's this type of shell, and I'll be opening some new oysters which are dark rainbow colours. So that is this type of shell. So just so then you can see the different types of shells, because they do need to be opened in a different way to each other. So let me just get these open. So to open them, you just grab a pair of scissors, cut above the oyster, and then just squeeze the oyster out and they come out easily. Okay, so if we start with the new rainbow oyster, so that is this kind of shell. So it's almost like a triangle shape, or it can be seen as a love heart shape. So if we go down, you can see here you want the straighter edge away from you. We're going to be going on to the more pointed edge. So all you need to do is lay it flat and put your knife over the nib on the end. Okay, so we're doing this because with this type of shell it comes up like this. Okay, so when it's like this, we can't normally pop it because this curvature here and here, so here and here, is very hard, so curve away from each other, as you can see there. So we pop the knife over the end and then we let the oyster do the work. So we just lift it up, and what happens then is the little end comes off and we've made a tiny little hole in the end here for the knife to go in. Now we're going to just slot the knife in the end, and then as you can see it's in the oyster. Now we don't want to push the knife all the way through because we don't want to nick the pearl at all. So we're just going to put literally the end of your knife in the oyster, and you're going to run it carefully down one side until you reach the hinge. You're then going to push and it down to then cut the hinge, to cut through the hinge, sorry. You then turn the oyster around, go from the top again and run the knife down the side and again down to the hinge. You should then be able to prise the oyster apart, where you'll then be able to pop your pearl out and have a squidge around to see if there's any more pearls in there. There's no more in this one, and then as you can see the shell is fully intact apart from that little bit that we had to nick off the end there. So if you wanted to keep your shells, you can do so. So I then just dry the pearls up and I'll pop them to the side. So if we do that again, so your new rainbow oyster, just going to pop it down, put the knife over the edge and lift the oyster up, sorry, which will then just take that very end bit off, but then it makes it so we can open this. So you pop your knife in the end, run it down one side only with the tip of the knife and push and cut through the hinge. The other side you pop your knife in the top and then again very carefully run down the other side and the other hinge. This should then prise apart carefully, where you can then have your squidge. So we've got a Pepsi blue pearl out of here, and again no more in that one, and the shells are fully intact. So that is how you open the, we call them triangle shells I guess for now. Okay, so then we're going to be moving on to our mystery oyster shells. Now these are slightly different. The triangle shells, like you saw, their shells met like this, so it's very hard to pop them. The oyster shells, however, are like this. So they've got the curvature on this side, but then they have this inner lip. So it's curved on this side, and on this side it's got this inner lip, which is actually the perfect place where we put our thumbs to pop these shells. So we don't have to take the top off of these. So I put my thumb, so you've got the curvature on this side, and you've got that inner curve on this side. So you put your thumb on the inner curve and your finger on the opposite side of the shell. And then again with your other hand, your thumb on top of your thumb and your finger on top of your finger. All you then need to do is apply pressure with your thumb, and it pops and opens up there. You can then see it's got a slight opening where you can put your knife in. Now with these oysters, they're slightly different to the other ones because the flesh on these ones is attached on both sides. What you want to do is you want to be putting your knife in to then scrape along the top side, so that curve on this side, you want to be going along the inside of the shell and scraping the flesh off of that top half, that top curve. You don't want to be doing it on this inside because it will come in and then out. It's very hard to get your knife in that curvature, so you want it to go along this outer curve. So once you've popped your shell, you push your knife in going away from you and just do little movements to get that flesh off of that shell, and then it should open up nicely. Now you can see here where the flesh is left behind, that's where I've cut through there. So again, slight small movements like that, slight small movements along the inside. So if I show you this way, I just went in and slight small movements like this along the inside curve would then make it so I can open up the oyster. You then have a good squidge. I can see a darker pearl there, and there's no more in that one. So then again, you've got two fully intact shells that if you would like to keep them, you can do so. So again, I'll run through that for you. So your oyster, again, you've got the outside curve and the inside curve. Your thumb goes on the inside, your finger on the other side, thumb and finger and push. Light pop there, and then it's opened up beautifully with that one. So again, keeping the oyster where your thumb and finger was means it's perfect positioning for your knife to go in, pushing away from you to scrape that flesh off that top half of the shell. And again, small movements because you don't want to nick the oyster. When you can feel the pearlers at the bottom, you just open that oyster up. Now again, you can see the flesh there, and that's where it's been cut away from the top half with those small motions. Again, we have a squidge in here. You pop your pearl or pearls out of your oyster. Do double check to have a good squidge around. And then again, there's your fully intact shell if you would like to keep them. Now I do recommend to open the oysters with gloves, and that's just because obviously they are preserved in a preserving liquid, and you don't know exactly what is in there. Obviously at home you don't know what's in there, so you don't know. You just want to be careful just in case you're allergic. So if you do have gloves, I would recommend to wear them. If not, wash your hands extremely well when you've finished opening the oysters, and obviously do wash any cutlery. If you're then going to go on to have dinner, for example, make sure you've washed your cutlery extremely well as well. Just a tip with the oysters, don't keep them in a warm place because they will go funky. They are preserved, but just keep them in a cool place for as long as you can. So yeah, I hope this video has helped, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.